Hello, welcome back to the disgusting lefties and their desire not to kill people. How dare we not want to kill people with our ivory towers? Nothing to do with us. We only say these things because we're obviously not involved in any of that, because we live in an ivory tower, no one can touch us.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so we just do what we're told by the secret illuminati elite.
Lizard overlords.
Yeah, the lizard overlords, and they told us to say this.
Yeah. We've done a lot on the junior doctors, but that result was unbelievable.
Yeah.
74% turnout, 98% voted in favour. I mean, that's a pretty definitive Jeremy Hunt.
Absolutely definitive, isn't it? It's not, well, it's just those lefties.
Well, basically, Jeremy Hunt is obviously staying quite defiant over it.
He didn't turn up for the debate, did he? Is that right?
Yeah, he basically, any opportunity he has found to wind up the junior doctors, he's done it.
Yeah.
And even in the light of the resounding result, 76% turnout, 98% in favour of strike action, the BMA have come forward with actually a pretty reasonable idea. Let's take this to ACAS, independent arbitration.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeremy Hunt has said, well, we'll keep that option open, maybe.
That's deliberately to wind them up.
Yeah, basically to...
So does he just hate them? I don't understand. It's this thing again where I try to have empathy about what does he believe. So say Peter Hitchens, I can understand. He has an intellectual position and you can empathise with what he believes and disagree with it. Jeremy Hunt's just an arsehole, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, he's not... I mean, it was a very bizarre appointment in the first place. By David Cameron, the embattled Jeremy Hunt, real question mark over his handling of the B-Sky B deal, which automatically looks extremely sinister because we know how close the Murdoch empire is to the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
And it looks like Jeremy Hunt was sympathising through a third party who took the fall for him, and the result of that was he was given the Department of Health in charge of the NHS. Yeah. And this guy wrote a book on how to dismantle the NHS, is a believer in homeopathy. I mean, straight away it looks... It's a completely bizarre... It's an appointment which says... It's a bit like the John Whittingale appointment.
Yeah, with the BBC. The guy that said it was like the poll tax. And he was involved in the poll tax.
This looks like... It doesn't... Does it look like privatisation? I mean, the actual lack of funding is the real concern for privatisation. The real sensible thing to do with the NHS is to renegotiate these ludicrous loans that the NHS took out to build hospitals.
Yeah.
The Coventry, the hospital, I can't remember what the figures are. It's like cost 300 million to build and they're paying back over $1 billion. That needs to be renegotiated to get some money in. This dogmatic idea that some kind of internal market inside the NHS is the way forward is absolutely ridiculous. It's costing so much money. The hospitals are full, the car parks are full of administrators administering the internal market. Yeah. The NHS will find the right way to do something, and then they should use the economies that they get from being the NHS to get it at the cheapest possible price. The result is you get varying levels of care in different areas, which is, one of the most concerning things about the NHS. It shouldn't be a lottery dependent on care. We should not be dogmatically following this idea that markets are fantastic in situations where they're not fantastic.
Particularly when what's happened in the last few years, obviously, where markets obviously don't work, and you can't have unfettered capitalism.
No, an internal market. I mean, what the hell is that? That's just...
Is it that they think, well, we can't actually win the argument, so if we sabotage it, we'll have to do it? I mean, is it really that
it could
crass?
Be. But there is also this manifesto pledge they've given for 24 hours 7 cover. Now there's already 24 hours a day, 7 days a week emergency cover. Yeah. What they want is the same level of care over the weekends, and they're not willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
Because again, the deficit that is obviously extremely important. And so the junior doctors are the first step on that. So he doesn't want to lose this argument, because after the junior doctors are done, then it's the nurses, and then it'll be the next part. Basically, you're going to have to go around, bully each professional in the NHS into basically working themselves to the bone to fulfil the Conservative pledge, rather than actually figure out how they're going to pay to do it, because it's completely unrealistic what they're trying to do. They're either going to undermine the services as a whole, in terms that weekday services are going to be undermined because they're trying to provide it over the weekend, or it's just going to go pop or just go bust. So I think that's why he's so unmovable over it, is because he knows actually the junior doctors is just the first rung on the ladder to what he's trying to achieve. So if he gives in to the junior doctors, then he'll have to give in to the nurses, and then he'll have to give in to the radiographers, and he'll have to give in to the other staff.
Yeah.
You know, so that's really what's going on.
I mean, all it would be, I mean, obviously there's a monetary problem, but it is about redirecting the money from your mates to the NHS, basically, isn't it?
Well, poll after poll shows that people will be willing to pay more in taxation to pay for an NHS. What we don't appreciate so much in this country is that the NHS is actually a standard bearer for nationalised health. I mean, we spend much less than other developed countries on health, and we have a much better outcome. And sort of privatised American healthcare companies see the NHS as a target. If they can get in there, then they can go and sell it abroad. It's a bit like the Chinese and the nuclear power things. It's sort of like, well, the NHS in the UK, they use us, so therefore we must be good.
Yeah. So why is that? And yet we're fed a spin that they're terrible. They're so disorganised, and it's their fault, etc. Until you actually use it, and it's really good.
So there you go.
Obviously, there's something we've not talked about. That's the Paris attacks. We've already talked about ISIS, so we've already said this, really. And the answer is, well, what do we do now? But it's too late. Every single person that supported all these mad wars we did, and particularly Iraq, share a portion of the blame. Yeah, there's nothing to do with the blame of the perpetrators or anything like that. That's the spin that they try and avoid. Because what's happened is exactly what everybody said would happen. We said it was stupid. Do not do this. It will make it worse. We will end up with an extreme, powerful Islamic monster. And that's exactly what has happened. So what everyone said would happen has happened exactly. Tony Blair is at fault. Obviously. All the people around him are all at fault. What's his name? The spin dude.
Alistair
Campbell, who was probably involved in the dossier. He's to blame. Ian Duncan Smith has said, I've read it, and you can't see it. He's to blame as well. Everyone who supported it shares the blame in that.
Yeah, I mean, what you got to be careful.
Enabling arseholes.
We are presented with a false dichotomy when you make that argument. You're saying, well, no, you're saying that ISIS aren't to blame and that we're somehow to blame by some miraculous thing.
Which is exactly what I'm not saying.
Yeah, and it's not true. What we're saying is, if we hadn't acted that way, the situation wouldn't be as bad as it is at the moment. Yes, there are atrocities before Iraq, and that's the other thing they troll out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was a terrorist attack in Egypt. Not on this scale.
No, nowhere near. Remember, Al Qaeda is nowhere near as horrible as what's happening now. Like everybody said this would happen, and it did. Stupid.
We don't live in a bubble where our actions have no reverberations around the world whatsoever. So yeah, I mean, we are in a terrible situation, and sort of everything is shown through that light at the moment. I mean, did you see the Andrew Neil rant on?
Yes, brilliant. I thought it was really good. Oh, see, this is why Andrew Neil is good.
I thought it was meaningless rhetoric. It doesn't. I think people like Andrew Neil are not helping the situation. I'll tell you what. I watched Question Time, and I didn't realise how despairing I was of the situation. Then Max Hastings came on, and he said something very, very sensible, which was, what are we fighting? Rushing in, dropping bombs on people isn't the answer. We've got to come up with the answer. It's got to be a united front and all this. And I actually felt like hugging Max Hastings, to be honest, because here is a right-wing commentator, former editor of the Telegraph, now writes for the Daily Mail, military nut.
Yeah, not saying that thing when we bombed stuff and it made it worse. Let's bomb it.
So, and then we get on to this week, and Andrew Neil just launches into this tirade, and it may be true, there may be elements of truth, it may be completely true, but it was just rhetoric. That's all it was. Andrew Neil does not have any answers to this. He's just there. He's the drumbeat for war has started, and he's full behind it. He wants us to go to war.
He probably does want to see us to war.
Yeah. What we actually want is a solution to the problem, and dropping bombs on people from planes is not going to solve this problem.
Yeah. Seemingly just doing it really, really haphazardly and sort of just bombing loads of innocent people it's what they want. They want us to do all these things. They want us to blame immigrants. They want us to just we need to bomb a country and then we'll feel better.
Yeah, we are. It's
such an easy answer, but I don't have a solution. Doing nothing is better than doing anything at the moment, but it's too late.
Yeah,
I don't know now. It's too late. But and it's not. Again, we're not taking the blame from the perpetrators. It's a "I told you so" moment, isn't it? It's the biggest "I told you so" in the last since the Second World War.
I think we're in a much more dangerous situation now than we were after 9/11. Because after 9/11, when the drumbeat for war against Iraq started, it was generally recognised
as nonsense
in the public as nonsense.
Yeah.
You spoke to each other, it was nonsense. We knew that Tony Blair was fiddling the books to get us to go to war for whatever his personal reasons were. Maybe he actually believed it. If he did, he was a complete lunatic.
Yeah.
But maybe he actually believed it. But now there is actually a case for military action, and that takes, that underlines how serious. Because I'm quite loath to head for military action, but I do say it's probably justified in this instance. But the problem is we have a tendency to think military action is the only solution there is to the problem, when really we need a full spectrum response. Our first response should not be military. There needs to be a military plan. Dropping bombs on people isn't the answer. It involves boots on the ground, as they say, which is a horrible and scary thought in this month of remembrance. But actually our first priority is to deal with the people coming from that region who are stranded in no man's land trying to get into Europe. We see the bodies of children washing up on the shores. These are the moderates that we...
Yeah, these are the people we like.
These are the people we're saying
the good guys.
Should be standing up, against that and speaking out against... Well, that's where they are. They're in camps. They're not being allowed on trains. They're getting the cold shoulder from David Cameron. And when these guys did what they did, their dream result would be for the people of Europe to turn against the people seeking asylum.
Of course it was immigrants. I blame immigrants.
Because as soon as we shut the doors to them, and Europe has been, as a whole, has been incredibly accommodating up until now.
Yeah.
But we're on the cusp, People are, Sweden has taken a lot, and they're saying, you've got to, we've got to spread this load. There are, families in the UK are saying, we will take asylum seekers in, and David Cameron's just showing them the cold shoulder.
Yeah.
No.
Well, that Cameron just does what the tabloids tell him, don't they?
Yeah.
We know that. That's why he changed for a day and then went back again.
So, realistically, we've got to, these people who have the potential to turn this thing, we have to, show them compassion, not just give them warm words. Warm words are good, but a warm blanket's even better, but a safe roof above your head, that's the tops as far as these people are concerned. And
no, they want to take our jobs and take our jobs and benefits.
And then we have to go in and we have to, sort this thing out in a coordinated effort.
I've even read, I know it wasn't all Muslims, but why don't more of them condemn it? Amongst all of them condemning it. I actually read a couple of those, and of course, everyone is so horrified, but there's people who are a little bit right wing, so we say, far right, much the same as ISIS, saying these things, and theirs is a glee. Told you so about immigration. The perpetrators had fake passports. They were actually fake passports, so they weren't really real immigrants, and had them on them during the attack. Why would they have their passports on them unless they want you to find them?
So yeah, it's a very delicate scenario. We seem to have a prime minister who, I think I've said in the past, I believe is a coward.
Yeah, he's a lightweight, as we've said.
A coward would be happy to drop bombs on people's heads from a fantastic height.
Yeah, which is the easy answer, which is obviously...
Yeah, I think David Cameron was quite keen to be sat opposite Vladimir Putin and seemed to be doing, yes, we're talking very seriously.
I'm like one of the grown-ups now.
Yeah,
I'm like Tony Blair.
But realistically, France hasn't really... I think they've been going to America to try and, get them on board. I think the links between France and Britain are quite strained at the moment because David Cameron has been so bullish over this European thing, quite unreasonable in the sense saying he has this series of demands and Europe is, and they're not presenting the demands, undermining the European Union any chance he can with the Greece thing, But I will say this for him: before he went to war in Syria, he put it to a vote in the Commons,
and he lost.
And he
didn't go through with it.
At least he put it, there is no necessity for him to actually do that. He could just say we're going to war and that's it. But he did put it to a vote to the Commons, and he's saying he wants to put it to the vote in the Commons again. Looks like he might actually win it this time, because there's a load of crazy Labour MPs who would rather stick it to Jeremy Corbyn than actually look at the deal. I mean, there are Labour MPs saying that they would support action in Syria, and they haven't even seen the proposals.
Yeah, but then no one's going to mention, the media will not mention, that a couple of years ago we voted to attack the government in Syria, not the other way around. So we wanted to attack that. Oh no, actually, no, we're going to do it that way. You know, I mean, like I said, I don't have an answer. That's dropping bombs on people is the easy answer. Killing innocent people probably isn't necessary.
At best, it's maybe part of the solution, not the solution. I'll tell you what was interesting actually. Jeremy Corbyn's obviously got a lot of stick because he said shoot to kill policy was worried about it.
Well,
me too.
Yeah, I mean, actually, because that's the problem, is that when we kill them, we empower them. When we drop bombs on innocent people, we empower them. They want us to do that. They want us to demonise immigrants. They hate liberal thinking. You know, if we obviously, it's not an easy thing to ask in that situation. Usually, you would shoot to kill. Usually, but if we could catch them and put them on trial, that would be a powerful thing, and it would be not what they wanted.
Yeah.
For them to blow themselves up is exactly what they want.
So whatever Jeremy Corbyn says on this is widely misrepresented in the media. We had this thing about Ken Livingstone in the week, who he made. It sounds to me like an off-the-cuff comment that you must be a lunatic, not realising that this person had a history of mental health problems. Yet it was widely portrayed in the media that he knew he deliberately pressed that. No, Ken Livingstone refused to apologise because actually someone was being quite unreasonable. Ken Livingstone had been appointed to a committee, which sounds fairly balanced to me. You've got the Shadow Defence Secretary, Angela Eagle, who's pro-Trident, and the co-chair, Ken Livingstone, who is obviously anti-Trident. That sounds like you're going to get a balanced judgment from that policy committee, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. If you've got someone leading it who is obviously pro-Trident, well, what's the answer going to be? So, I mean, it does make sense from that sort of point of view, but apparently Angela Eagle was on the verge of resigning and people are very unhappy about this. But the interesting thing about it all was Jacob Rees-Mogg on Have I Got News For You. Have you seen it?
I know he
made a comment which didn't go down very well with the audience. It was a bit disparaging about Corbyn. I don't know if he was playing politics with this, but the conversation came on to the troubles Labour had this week, and he actually said, well, Jeremy Corbyn is obviously a man of principle, and his principle is not particularly popular at the moment, but he's stuck with that principle, which should be commended, which is exactly the point.
It's strange that he said that when, you know...
This is Jacob Rees-Mogg, you know, screaming lefty. We have to doff our caps to that because he's absolutely right. We're sick of politicians who say what we think say what they think we want to hear, and when they've got an opinion that they don't think is particularly palatable,
they move. And actually, I mean, Jacob Rees-Mogg is in the news now. He's a pretty unpleasant guy. They were having a talk about this idea of training children in first aid, and for whatever reason they don't want to do that because it costs money or something. So they deliberately talked continuously until the debate ended so that they couldn't make a decision. Nice.
So it's a very unsettling state of affairs at the moment, but you have to live in hope.
Yes, but it is a big unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. And in a way, if you could live in the world where it was easy, it's because we have to bomb them. It's because we didn't bomb them enough. We've got to bomb them more.
Let's do the same, let's do it more. That'll sort the problem out.
Yeah. If I could believe that, it would be easy, wouldn't it? It wouldn't be frightening at all. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So onto lighter stuff. We've dealt with that now. David Cameron, obviously there was a petition to have a vote of no confidence. Perfectly reasonable for someone with such a slim majority. 190,000 people signed the petition. It wasn't just any petition, this was on the government website petitions. They're trying to, it was Cameron that introduced this. Of course, he only meant it for things he likes, obviously. Because it was a snub, they just ignored it. Because he's the Prime Minister. So you can't have no vote of no confidence. He's the Prime Minister, and he is the Prime Minister. So therefore, he is the Prime Minister. It's like when he didn't win the election in 2010. He's still the Prime Minister because he is the Prime Minister. You can't get rid of him, he's the Prime Minister. He is the Prime Minister. He is.
The Prime Minister.
Yeah, so obviously none of this stuff affects us because we that's why we just laugh, because none of it affects us. Because we're in our ivory tower, we're not in the real world.
We are removed from it all.
We're upper class in London, North London elite immigrants. Yeah. We all know what North London elite immigrants is code for. There's only one North London elite that are immigrants. We know who that is, really, don't we? See you next time.
Bye bye.